back to another sewing tutorial. Today I'm going to teach you how to make linen shorts. And I'm going to be using the same fabric that I used for the Leah dress, which is this light beige sand colored linen. But you don't have to use linen, you can use whatever fabric you would like to use. And also at the end of this video I'm going to teach you how to turn the pattern into a pattern for some long linen pants. So yeah, watch the whole video or just forward to the back if you only want to make long pants. And you will need all the basics for the sewing project, like your fabric, sewing machine, scissors. You can use an overlock machine, I will use mine, but you don't need to use one. And on top you will need some elastic, and the elastic I'm using is 2.5 centimeters wide. And because I'm using a fabric that's quite light, I'm using white elastic, but if you're using dark fabric, I would recommend maybe using some black elastic. And I also want to show you the fabrics that I bought yesterday. I went to Spotlight, which is a store here in Australia, and they had 40% off. So I got this white fabric that I really like. It's textured, I don't know if you can see it in the video, and it's quite see-through, so I think I'm gonna make a blouse out of it that you can wear over your bikini or just over a tank top. And then I got this super pink fabric. Usually I never buy crazy pink colors, but I don't know what I was thinking yesterday, and I don't regret it today, which is good. And it's this viscose fabric that's also textured. And then this is a favorite fabric I bought yesterday. It's cotton, and I think this would be so nice, or is gonna be so nice for a summer dress. But I don't know 100% yet what I'm gonna do with those fabrics, so if you have any ideas or if there's any tutorials you want me to make, just let me know. And the sewing pattern for the linen shorts will be you can print them out in A4, so you can print them out at home, but I've got some requests to also have it in A0. So you can just go to a copy shop and print it in A0, so you don't have to glue all the pieces together, and yeah, basically it will just save you some time. And I also printed mine out in A0 now, but if you print it out in A4 and you want to learn how to put the pattern together, just go back to the sewing tutorial from the scarf top. I also want to show you today how to take your measurements correctly, so you can find the right size for you in the size chart. And for today's sewing project we just need our waist and our hip measurements, and I would recommend you that you don't wear any clothes, so maybe just do it in your underwear. And you also need a measuring tape. The best way to find your right measurements for the waist is to find the smallest part of your waist, and you should still be able to move the measuring tape around a bit, so don't make it too tight and don't make it too loose. And to find the correct hip measurement you need to find the widest part of your hips or of your bum, and again you need to be able to move the measuring tape around, so don't make it too tight and don't make it too loose. So here we have the two pattern pieces now, and as you could see, it saves so much time when you print it in A0. But you also have to keep in mind that it's probably going to cost you a lot more to print it in A0, at least for me. I had to pay almost $20 to get it printed in A0. So yeah, you just have to decide what works best for you, if you want to save money and spend a bit more time on it, or if you're willing to spend more money and save a lot of time. So now we need to cut out the fabric, and it just started raining so much here, so I hope you can still hear me, otherwise I'm gonna have to put subtitles under here. But yeah, to cut out the fabric you need to fold the fabric in half. So here it's folded, here you can see that it's open. And the reason why we're doing this is because we need the front twice and we need the back twice. And I would always recommend laying all the fabric, like all the pattern pieces, as close together as possible, just so you save as much fabric as possible. Now I've taken the pins out again. So I remove the paper, and the next thing we have to sew is along here. So I'm just going to take some needles and pin everything in place. And we do the same to the back pattern piece. I take the needles off. And we also need to sew along here, so I'm just going to take some needles again and pin it in place. We have cut out our fabric, we can start sewing, and if you're completely new to sewing, just go and watch my last YouTube video where I'm teaching you the very basics that you need to be able to sew your linen shorts. But yeah, if you already know how to sew or you watched the video already, we can start with our normal sewing machine, and we start with a straight stitch, and I have a stitch length set at 2.5, and I would recommend using sewing thread that's matching your fabric. And I'm going to start sewing the back of the shorts first, and we're just going to sew along what we have pinned together just earlier. And now we're doing the same thing to the front, so we start up here and we sew along here. And next up we go to our iron now, and we're gonna press the seam open, and the same we're gonna do also at the back. And we are pressing our seams always open after sewing it with our normal sewing machine before we overlock it, because this is gonna make our finished shorts look so much nicer, so much more professional, so much cleaner. So yeah, we're gonna be pressing all our seams open before overlocking them. Next we need to overlock the back of the shorts, here this part that we have sewn and just pressed opened, and then we also need to overlock the front of the part that we have sewn and pressed opened. And if you don't have an overlock machine, just use your normal sewing machine at a zigzag option. Next up we want to sew the front and the back together, so we're going to put the back of the shorts on the table in front of us with the good side facing us, and then we take the front and we lay it on top with the bad side facing us, because we want the good sides facing each other. So here we have the back of the shorts, and by good side, so this is what I consider the bad side, where we see everything that we have sewn. So we have the good side facing us, and then we lay the back of the shorts on top with the bad side facing us, so the good sides are facing each other. And what we do next is we're going to sew the sides together. So we're just going to pin along here, and then we're going to do the same on the other side over here. And what we're doing now, we're just gonna do with a normal straight stitch. We sew from along here all the way down, and then we're doing the same on the other side. We start here and sew all the way down. My camera stopped filming while I was sewing and I didn't notice because my storage was full. But yeah, all I did was sew along the sides that we have pinned. So this side is closed now and this side is also closed. And they look so massive right now, but trust me, it's gonna look good in the end. And what we do now is we're gonna go back to our iron and we're gonna press the seams open again. Now that we have pressed the seams open, we go to our overlock machine and overlock both seams. And yeah, you can always use your normal sewing machine on a zigzag option, and the reason why we're doing this is because we don't want the fabric to fray, so we are overlocking it for a clean finish. Now we need to sew this part down here together, so we need to sew the front and the back here together. And first we're gonna line up the seam here, so we're gonna put them right on top of each other, and we're just gonna take a needle and stick it right here, and then from here we're gonna go down this one side and pin it in place. And then the other side and pin it in place. Now it will look like this, and we're just going to start here and sew along here. And now after we've sewn this, once again we have to go back to our iron, press the seam open, and then we overlock it again. Time to hem our shorts, and the way this pattern is designed and the way it's intended is that you fold it up 3.5 centimeters and then 3.5 centimeters again. But the cool part about making your own clothes is that you can make it however you want it to look at the end. So if you want the shorts to be a bit longer, you can maybe just fold it up 2 centimeters and then 2 centimeters again, or maybe just even 1 centimeter and 1 centimeter. Or if you want them to be even shorter, maybe you can fold it up 4 centimeters and then 4 centimeters again. So yeah, but in the photo you've seen that I posted on Instagram, and also when you bought the pattern, I have folded the fabric up 3.5 centimeters and then 3.5 centimeters again. So we now want to fold it up 3.5 centimeters, and the fastest way to do this is if you measure like 3.5 plus 3.5 is 7. So I measure 7 centimeters from the edge here, and then either take some chalk, or I'm just going to use a pen here because I don't have any chalk that you'll be able to see here. And I'm just going to make some marks at 7 centimeters. Just like this. And now we can fold it up to the mark that we have just made and press it down. And we continue doing this all around. And now what we have to do is we fold it up again. So we're just gonna make sure that the fold is right here. And we're doing the same over here now. Again, I'm gonna mark 7 centimeters. We're doing the same over here now. I'm gonna mark 7 centimeters from the edge here. And now before we start sewing, I'm just going to take this off my sewing machine. It's just going to make it easier. And I'm going to put it aside. And now that we start sewing, I would recommend that you start sewing in here, like on the inside of the legs, like on this side and also on this side. Because when we start sewing, we always do a front and a back stitch. And if you do it on the inside, you won't be able to see it. And it's just like a little tip to make it look even more professional at the end. And now I'm putting the needles aside and we're gonna do the other side. And I would always recommend using some small scissors to cut off the thread, just so you don't accidentally cut into your fabric. Now there's only one last step we need to do, and we need to create the tunnel at the top here where we then can pull the elastic through. So what we're first going to do is we're going to go back to our iron, and first we're going to fold it down just about 1/2 centimeter, and we're going to do this all around. And then after we're going to fold it down again, and depending how wide your elastic is, mine is 2.5 centimeters, so I'm going to fold it down 3 centimeters. So now we need to find the back of the shorts, and I have found mine. Maybe it's easiest if you look at the sewing pattern again and figure out which is the front and the back, because I would recommend you now, because we are sewing basically a tunnel where we pull the elastic through, and we're gonna start a few centimeters before the seam here, maybe around here, like around 3 to 4 centimeters, and then we sew all the way along here, all the way in a circle, and then we're gonna finish a few centimeters before the middle seam here. And we need to leave this part that's in between my fingers open, just because that's where we need to pull the elastic through, and at the end there's going to be quite a few front and back stitches. So that's the reason why I would recommend you to start at the back. Now we need to figure out how much elastic we need, and the reason why I'm not providing you with that measurement is simply because every elastic is different. Like this elastic, for example, is really stretchy, so I would use a few less centimeters than I would use with an elastic that's really tight. And what you can do now is you take the elastic, put it around your waist, maybe stand up and just see how tight you want your elastic to fit, what feels comfortable. Maybe if you want your shorts to sit a bit lower and sit more loose, you can add a few more centimeters, and just make sure that when you have found a good place, like a good amount of elastic you want, make sure that there's enough space for the seam allowance, and then you can just cut it off. And maybe just for your reference, my elastic is 67 centimeters long. And now we just need to pull it through the tunnel, then we try the shorts on, see how it fits. Maybe we need to make the elastic a bit more tight. And otherwise we just close the hole and then we're already finished. Now we need to put some safety pins at both ends of our elastic. I'm going to put a big one here, and I can't find my other big ones. I don't know, I always keep losing them, so I'm just going to put a tiny one here. But here where I put the big needle, I'm just going to start pulling it through the gap that we left. And I'm just going to pull it all the way through and just make sure that the other end doesn't go into the tunnel. It needs to stay out because we then need to sew both ends together. And now that we have both ends outside again, you just need to make sure that the elastic didn't get twisted along the way. This is just gonna make it less comfortable when wearing it. And once you've made sure everything is okay, then you can take both safety pins out again. And now what we want to do is we want to lay them on top of each other around, depends how much extra you cut off, like it depends how much seam allowance you cut off when you measured it. I'm gonna lay mine around 1.5 to 2 centimeters overlaying each other, and I'm gonna put a needle in here, and now I'm gonna set my sewing machine to a zigzag option, and I'm just gonna zigzag back and forth quite a few times just to make sure it's really secure. Once I've put the foot down, I can take the needle out again, and now I'm just gonna slowly start sewing. So this is what it will look like, and you can just pull on it and make sure that it's really secure and it won't rip open again. And now you just want to pull the elastic evenly through it all. And don't close the gap yet. I would really recommend to try the shorts on now to see if the elastic is perfect. And now we are finished with our linen shorts. I really think this is the perfect project for when you're a beginner. And I have to go now. I'm going to Pilates. And tomorrow I'm gonna make the second part for this video where I'm gonna teach you how to adjust the pattern to make it into linen pants. I am back now. It's a new day. I was in a bit of a rush yesterday going to Pilates. But yeah, I want to show you now what the shorts look like. And then I'm also going to show you how you can change the pattern to make them into long pants. I just want to share 2 more tips with you, and number 1 is really make sure that the tunnel that we have created here earlier is wide enough for your elastic, because if it's not wide enough your elastic will scrunch together and it's just not gonna look super nice. So my elastic is 2.5 centimeters, so I folded the fabric down 3.5 centimeters because you need to make sure that there's enough space for the seam allowance and enough space for the elastic to sit comfortably. And the other thing that you can do, you don't have to do it, but I think it's a good idea to avoid the elastic from twisting and turning, is you pull the elastic all the way apart and then you start on one side here. You keep your finger on the fabric and hold onto the elastic. And then as you can see here, here's the seam, and we're gonna do a stitch down and up again right in the middle. And then we're gonna pull it apart again. And then we are gonna do the same to the other side. Just go down and up again. And the reason why we're doing this is just to avoid the elastic from twisting and turning. And I'm going to show you on my sewing machine now how I'm doing it. And always try to sew right in here, inside the seam line here, just because this way we won't be able to see the stitching too much. So this is what it will look like now, like you really can barely see it, and it's just gonna help the elastic to not twist and turn anymore. And here's the other side. Now we want to turn the pattern of the shorts into a pattern for long pants, and I always use brown packing paper like this. I always use this paper every time when I make some sewing patterns. And yeah, you basically just need paper, then you need some scissors, a pen, and the pattern of the shorts. So now we need to figure out how much longer we want our pants to be compared to our shorts. So we take a measuring tape, and I want my pants to touch the ground. So we're gonna have the beginning of the measuring tape hang down, and I'm gonna make mine just touch the ground. And then I'm measuring the distance from the ground to the end of my shorts. And for me that's 66 centimeters, so I want my pants to be 66 centimeters longer than my shorts. I'm now starting with the back of my pattern, and I'm just gonna lay it on the edge of the brown paper, and just take some random things that you have laying around just to weigh it down so it doesn't move around anymore. And now we just take a pen or a pencil, and you're just gonna trace the shorts, but you don't need to trace this part. And because I want my pants to be 66 centimeters longer than my shorts, I'm just gonna start measuring from here, 66 centimeters down, and always make a mark here all along. And then you can connect all the little dots that you have just made. And now it's a bit up to you how wide you want your pants to be. I like mine to be quite wide, so I want them to have the same width as on the top of my thighs. So I'm just going to continue the measurement of the width of the leg all the way to the end. So here, this part is 43.5 centimeters. So I'm going to continue measuring 43.5 centimeters. Now you can connect all the little marks that you have just made. Now we can remove all this stuff here. Like I decided to name them ruby shorts, so this pattern is going to be the ruby pants. It's going to be the back, and it needs to be cut out twice. You can take scissors and cut it out. So now we have the pattern piece for the back of the pants, and now we're just going to do exactly the same thing to the front pattern piece. Just take some weights that you have laying around just to make sure the pattern stays in place, and we're going to trace around it again. Start measuring from here, 66 centimeters down, and make a little mark. Now we can connect the dots that we've made again. And here's again, because I want my pants to be quite wide, I'm just going to continue the same width of the leg. So here it's 36 centimeters. So I'm gonna keep marking 36 centimeters all the way down. And again, we're just connecting now the marks that we have made. And we can remove all this. And I'm gonna write all the information that I need on here. Ruby pants, front. Now we can cut it out. Now that we have the front and the back for the ruby pants, and if you want to sew them now, you just have to do exactly the same that we did with the shorts, only that your seams will be longer. But other than that, like, it's going to be exactly the same. It's just going to take a bit longer because you have to sew more fabric together. That's it for today's sewing tutorial, and I really hope you were able to follow along, and I really think this was a great project for any beginners. And it's cool because now you can make shorts, you can make pants, and you can use whatever fabric you would like. I think it's also cool if you make some pajama pants or pajama shorts out of it. Just send me a photo, I would love to see what you make. And if there were any steps unclear, if you have any questions, this word is so hard for me to pronounce. If there was anything unclear, just leave a comment or send me a message on Instagram. And yeah, I'm getting so many messages on Instagram asking for sewing patterns for, like, every time when I post something that I've made, you ask for the sewing pattern, which makes me so happy. And I promise you, there's so many sewing tutorials and patterns coming. It's just a lot of work. So yeah, but I promise you there's so much more coming. And I'm really so thankful for your support. And I think it's so cool that we're all starting to sew our own clothes together now.